All right, well, good afternoon, class. We're not quite ready to start instruction with new material yet, but I thought I'd make another test video where I kind of remind us where we left off last time. So right now we're basically on my back porch. We'll see what spot in the house ends up being best for this. So last time we ended up with wanting to discuss molecules. The first thing we thought about then was, why does hydrogen all by itself form? So an electron and a proton at infinite separation, is there a zero for energy? So if we had the proton and the electron separated by infinite distance, we call that zero energy, but we gain 13.6 eV coming together to form a hydrogen atom. That's why we have hydrogen and other atoms, because it's energetically favorable for the system to come together and combine. So in chemical terms, that would be the right units. It would be 1,300 kilojoules per mole. If that's a better unit for you. So the other idea then is that this works for an electron and a proton, and similarly, two hydrogen atoms combine to form H2 and lower the overall energy. So that's why molecules form, and this is what we aim to start understanding next. So the idea is that we take a collection of electrons and protons, we make atoms. This is an overall for the system as a whole, a gain in energy. We can do the same with individual atoms of different kinds, bring them together to form molecules, and it can be energetically favorable. The question is, that often comes up at this point is, at what point do we say, oh, that's chemistry, and leave it alone? Well, there's not some obvious demarcation that here's where physics ends and there's where chemistry begins. It's all very fluid, for one. And two, the idea that we should only be interested in the most reductionist sort of thing, individual particles and stuff like that, there's a lot of interesting stuff that happens with complexity. So, well, now we understand hydrogen, and you might assert then that we have a decent understanding of the rest of the periodic table by analogy. That doesn't mean we know anything about molecules. They can behave completely differently than their individual substituents. So the classic example would be what happens when you take a violently reactive metal and a poisonous gas and combine them so you get salt. Sodium and chlorine by themselves are both very much incompatible with humans, but as soon as we combine them, we get something which is actually quite handy. So the other point is we need quantum mechanics and electrodynamics to understand how bonds work and understand how collections of solids work. So the next idea, though, is we were able to solve the hydrogen atom more or less exactly, at least with the methods we know about. We already figured out we can't solve helium, not analytically anyway, and we certainly can't solve the hydrogen diatomic molecule with any reasonable means. So what we also need to look for now are approximate methods. The one we'll look at will be the variational method. And this will lead us to things that you'll remember from chemistry, like the linear combination of atomic orbital scheme to figure out how molecular orbitals work. That is the point where we're pretty much going to stop and say, now the chemists do a much better job of this, but we can get right up to their doorstep and figure out how most of these things work. So that's it for this very short video, just to remind you where we left off. The next one will be a short video, the general mechanical properties of bonds. Where we'll be able to figure out, for instance, how would one go about calculating the elasticity of a material or the bulk modulus or shear modulus or something like that. As a spoiler alert, it turns out if you know the energy versus separation for the two atoms bonded together, you can get all of those things, including the speed of sound and just about any mechanical property you can think of, at least for the ideal pure side. But that's it for today, and look for more toward the end of the week, and we'll start with new material on the 30th.